Hello and welcome back to the DFS Premier League show. I'm your host, Kevin DeVries. That's my good friend and partner in crime, Bron Blanchevin. This is brought to you by VIP-bet.com. We'll start off with Rob. Obviously, he's the only person here that's not me. What's happening, Rob?
What's going on, Kevin? Like the handsome guy on the other end who's wearing his Ken Bone-esque shirt is going to inspire us into talking some money footy. You know, that's the best thing about our shows. We get to talk about football and money. You know, both things that guys, girls, any generation of species could probably, who use currency as a transferable remittance of funds, will probably enjoy.
Did you just open a thesaurus? You're just hitting us with all of it?
Well, you know, I like to bring big words into the fray because it adds intellectual value. Here you go.
Fair enough. Also, I love how just because I'm wearing red, it's Ken Bone-esque. But
totally 100% Ken Bone.
It's crazy how quickly he blew up. People already saying that they're going to vote for Ken Bone as he asked a more insightful question than either of the presidential candidates were giving answers. But let's probably push politics to the side. This doesn't really feel like the place to do that. In the past, these preview shows we've done based on value. From now on, we're probably going to be doing them based on match and each going through some players we like and some players that we don't like. It is just the 1 week of show now, by the way. It will just be recorded Wednesdays, getting out to you guys on Thursdays. So there will be a little review preview going forward. But for the preview segment, we will, of course, be doing it the way I just explained, where we're going to go through by matchups. You have any final resting thoughts before we get into it?
No, let's get into some names and some numbers and get some teams built for this weekend's fray of matches.
Fair enough. All right, well then I will call up this screen if I can figure out how to do it. Boom. There we go. Oh, wow. It even has the right people lined up. That was surprising. So, first up, we're going to be talking about Arsenal versus Swansea. For me, I dislike Alex Iwobi. Despite the fact that he plays out wide, guess how many successful crosses he has this season?
Less than 10.
Correct, because 0 is less than 10. That's awful, considering he plays out wide. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Low price does not always mean good value, and that's certainly the case here. There are plenty of Arsenal guys to like in this Swansea matchup. Obviously, they are the better team, one of only really 3 matches where it's clearly a good team versus a team that's not as good. Swansea going to have to be dealing with some managerial changes and stuff. Also, Rob, you'll know from our FPL Roundtable show, and people from this might know as well, I tend to stick with the chalk guys. I just feel like those are the people are already looking out for, so it's easier to explain to people there. But I decided to go off script a little bit because a name kept popping up while I was looking up other statistics. And it's actually from Swansea, and he hasn't been starting every match. So it's about as far away from chalk as you can go, and that's Modou Barrow, who, unlike Iwobi, is doing everything from the wing. And is actually second in successful crosses behind only Andros Townsend, who we'll talk about a little bit later. Anyway, Llorente is huge. Borges is actually good. If he gets the minutes under new manager Bob Bradley, he will be a person to keep an eye on. He's only 5,300. He's averaging loads of crosses per match. And so anyway, if he does start, then great. If not, you can swap him out last minute. 5,300 isn't so low price that you can't find a replacement. But anyway, I feel like not a lot of people talking about the Swansea side of this match, so Modou Barrow is a player I like. Who do you have in this one?
You know, I got to go with the chalk goalie here. I think I talked about it in the past with the videos. Peter Cech's this week's highest goalie at 5,900, and he's going to probably perform like the highest goalie the last 3 weeks. The highest goalies the last 3 weeks have come out on top of the goalie scoring sheets, so look for it to continue here as Arsenal's defense seems to be gelling at a good time when they have 3 easy fixtures in a row. But let's concentrate on this one because they're playing against a Swansea team that doesn't really score that many goals. You know, I know the contrarian play is to never pay for goalie or defense, but 3 weeks in a row leading into this week, you know, that's starting to be a pattern there for me. I'm starting to be an investor into the back end of the fantasy DFS fray because you're getting excellent return on your dollar value, regardless if it's the most expensive. But if you look at it this way, he's basically 5,900, which is basically your secondary midfielder or your utility player. So you're basically investing the money that you would invest in a midfielder or your cheaper utility player into your goalie and not saving the money. But he's the highest priced goalie's been giving you excellent returns so far this year.
And if you get it right, you get 10 points because you get five for the clean sheet, 5 for the win. So definitely agree with you there.
Absolutely, and the guys, somebody I don't like this week, from this game, Swansea defense. I mean, pick somebody. Kyle Naughton's 4,400. Anybody else that you're looking at on the Swansea defense that has a money value next to him? No, just keep clicking and go somewhere else. I expect Arsenal to get 2 or 3 in this game, and Swansea, as Kevin mentioned, has a new skipper in charge there, and I don't see much from them until they start developing under the Bob Bradley system.
Yeah, which only really time will tell how he uses that team tactically and who ends up being in the starting 11. So just kind of keep an eye on that. All right, so that pretty much wraps up that one for us there. Next up, if I can manage to maneuver this correctly, we have Bournemouth-Hull. We'll lead off with you. If you like, who do you have that you like and dislike in this one?
This game is all about value. A lot of people are going to load up on the Arsenals, the Spurs, and the Man City talents of the world, and their prices are what they are because they're better teams and they produce better fantasy outcomes most of the time. So from this Bournemouth-Hull game, you're basically looking for a value play, whether it be these are all value plays for me in this game. There's nobody I really dislike because they're kind of like a contrarian play or somebody you're basically fitting in there at a value budget to fit into your roster. So I'll just list 3 guys that I like in this game because there's nobody I really dislike, because there's nobody I'm really going to be like, oh, I wouldn't start him because he plays for Hull or Bournemouth, because no, you're not going to start them because they do play for Hull or Bournemouth.
That's the point.
Yeah. So there's 3 guys that I would pinpoint on this depending on how much free cash you have in your kitty. First is Robert Snodgrass. We've gone over him 1,000 times. 19 crosses in his last 4 games, 17-10, 13-6 in his last 4 games. At $7,000, he's a pretty good bargain considering he gets a lot of set pieces, and people are not going to be looking in this game to add him to their team because it's a Bournemouth-Hull game. There's not much expected from it. The second guy I like is Josh King. If anybody was paying attention in the international game, he basically blew the hell up for Norway. He had 30 points in the game if we were playing in a cash format. So he's a cheap forward option. And you know what? I'm going to actually label him as the anti-Heung-min Son play this week.
Yeah.
So Heung-min Son is going to be owned a ton this week, given his price point at I believe Son is 7,600. So you're saving 1,400 on rostering Joshua King at 6,300. And my third guy, and it's probably my favorite of everybody I've listed, because he's starting to come on and he's starting to see more time there. It's the Spurs transfer Ryan Mason, 3,600. He's a sneaky decent midfield play because he likes to be offensive. Last game he had 4 shots from a team that doesn't actually produce that many opportunities. So at 3,600, he's probably your perfect, plug-in midfielder if you want to just completely go crazy and spend for the Aguero and Sanchez or the Aguero and Lukaku's or whoever you want to load up on with the big-name talent price-wise guys. But those 3 guys for me, because this game is all about value, are guys that I would key on from this fixture.
Yeah, not a bad shout there from you. I'm actually going to kind of go the counter to Josh King here with Junior Stanislas, who has been sneaky good and has been keeping a personal favorite of mine, Max Gradel, entirely out of this team this whole season. By the way, he's averaging 10.5 points per game. I don't know why it says 10.3. You can look into it, do the math. It's very strange that they got that wrong. This Hull defense did start well this season, but they've been dropping like a rock. Now they're down to 18th in the league. That's not very good at all. And Hull's wingbacks, who are Andrew Robertson and El Mohammadi, love to bomb forward, so there's going to be plenty of space in behind them. So anyway, Stanislas, I think he had an assist last week or 2 weeks ago. Don't remember, but he's been getting forward a lot. He's been offering a lot of chances to whoever's up front. I know you and I kind of vacillate on Callum Wilson. But anyway, Stanislas has been pretty consistent at the front for them. I also like Adam Smith. Weirdly, Charlie Daniels is underrated and Adam Smith is overrated in the FPL game, but it's vice versa here. Adam Smith gets forward loads of times. Where is he at? Did I miss him? No, there he is. 4,600. And Bournemouth is sneakily tied for 5th with clean sheets this season. So the defense is a little bit better than I think a lot of people expect as well. So I really wouldn't be surprised if they kept a clean sheet. Obviously, the downside of that is that my homeboy, Abel Hernandez, who I've loved ever since his Palermo days in Serie B, just isn't doing the business. He's 30th overall in shots on target. Not in points, not in goals. Shots on target, he's only 30th. He's not really doing the business for them at all. Lost the start last match to Diamersi and Bukani, who's your boy from last season, at Norwich. So anyway, I do love Albert Hernandez. It's just not working for him at the moment. So I'm probably going to be out on him. Any wrap-up thoughts on this one? Where do you think this one's going to go if you had to pick a winner?
You know, I feel this game is either going to be 1-0 or 2-0 for either team can take it either way. I liked your shout for Bournemouth and the clean sheets. I had Artur Buric on here as well as a sneaky play. He's like the contrarian, Czech play. But there's a lot of sneaky goalies if you want to go, and not with the high price Czech. Yeah, totally. But yeah, this is a total bargain game. You're not rostering more than one guy from this game on your team.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't. And like I said, I wouldn't probably go Hull personally, but there's definitely you could argue there's value pretty much anywhere in that match, which is basically how you introed that match. So now heading on to Manchester City versus Everton. The player that I like is Nolito, who has been out the last couple matches with his red card, whereas he's down here, 7,500. That's pretty good value for me, especially considering it looks like Raheem Sterling will still be out. Although, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually snuck back in. They could have kind of inflated the amount of damage he had just to keep him out of the England squad, which didn't perform that well anyway, to be fair. But if Sterling is actually out, Nolito all of a sudden becomes a great value and a great option out on that left wing where Sterling has been causing so much damage. It is kind of the B team for Manchester City here, with David Silva as the main creator and Nolito out left. But as far as B teams go, that's pretty dang good. So I do think Nolito is kind of a sneaky play here. A player I don't like is Romelu Lukaku up front for Everton. I will never miss a chance to hate on Romelu Lukaku.
No, absolutely not. Nor should you.
He is the bane of my fantasy existence. Just so frustrating. Does have a little bit of an injury that he picked up with Belgium on international duty, so there's a chance he misses this one. If he doesn't miss it, he's up against the top 5 defense in Manchester City. I just don't love it. I mean, Deulofeu, you and I both know Deulofeu is their best quote-unquote creator. Can't get into the side. Ross Barkley can't create for his life, even though that's the position he plays in. Really, his best chance is from Morales or from Yannick Bolasie, who has been sending in a fair amount of crosses. I just don't trust it, and I never will. So I'm only ever going to go Lukaku when it's a good matchup, and this is not that. Who do you have in this one that you like and dislike?
The guy I like in this is kind of an unheralded. A lot of people probably may go in this direction because the City defense is, it's got some decent value in it, even though they don't keep a great amount of clean sheets. They're good defensively, but they just don't keep a great amount of clean sheets. But I'm going to go with the injury for Bakary Sagna's replacement, Pedro Zabaleta. He's 4,100. He should be cheap enough that you could probably fit him into your roster. He's got 10 points in his last start, so he's going to give you decent value on that 4,100. And Man City is favored in here, so they could squeak out a clean sheet in this and give you the extra bonus points for Zabaleta. Since Kevin touched on Lukaku, and I was going to say that as well.
We can double up.
Yeah, I was going to.
We really don't like Lukaku.
Yeah. I'll just throw in some other points. Lukaku doesn't do enough of the ancillary stats to be your forward of choice. Yeah, he scores goals, and that's basically what he does. His last 3 games, 14, 16, 3. The 2 games where he had 14 and 16, he scored a goal. Didn't have more than 3 shots on goal in any game. That's all, and basically nothing else in the stat column. So he's basically a blank everywhere else, minus the goal thing. Everton defense is the obvious avoid here for me. Whether it be Seamus Coleman, Ashley Williams, or sneaky Brian Oviedo play, all avoids. City's going to tally in this game. If they don't, you're basically probably a lot of teams. That's probably good and bad for DFS because a lot of people are going to roster Sergio Aguero here. So if Everton somehow manages a clean sheet, it's going to wipe out probably about 30 to 35% of the teams that roster Sergio Aguero. So if you're an anti-Sergio Aguero DFS player, this could be good for you, but I don't foresee it happening. Yeah. And since we're going to continue on with the matchups this week, the next game is Stoke versus Sunderland, which is another fantasy, bounty of goodness. Humdinger is a great word. So Kevin, who do you like and dislike in this game?
I don't like a whole lot about it, to be honest with you. I mentioned on our FPL show yesterday, there are only 2 teams that are bottom 5 in the Premier League in attack, defense, and goal difference, and they're playing against each other in this match. So, not exactly a thriller, although this could end up kind of being a poor man's goal fest.
It could be.
If neither defense shows up here. For my it's Jermaine Defoe. We know that Defoe was a gamble at this point, but at this low of a price, it's 7,900. Just like compared to Aguero, who you mentioned there a bit, I don't think Aguero's worth the money this week. Everton are second in defense in the league right now, by the way, which I don't think a lot of people know. I completely agree with you that they're not really startable, even though they do rank that highly, because City are going to score. It's just, Aguero might score 1, but maybe not 2, and for the money you'd have to pay for Aguero, you kind of want 2. But anyway, back to this actual match. I do like Defoe at a lower price, and his 4 goals are just 2 off the league lead, and he's actually doing it with his lowest shot accuracy percentage in years at just 54%. If you average their defensive opponents over the next 5, just so you keep Defoe in mind, 15.2 out of 20 is the average of their next 5 opponents. So if Defoe does have a good game here, be sure to keep him on your radar because he is worth looking at going forward as well. I'm not going to touch Patrick Van Aanholt because I assume that's who you're going to talk about. For a player that I dislike, Bojangles. He's really high risk, but also not that high reward. He's a very, very talented player. I just don't trust him. It's entirely possible he scores in this one. Sometimes he takes penalties. I just don't want too many shares of him or pretty much any of the Stoke attackers on the whole. But Bojan is a player that has perennially underperformed in this league, and for a long time I was on eventually that'll kind of come back to the mean, that eventually he'll start playing at his potential. He just hasn't done it in years. I thought maybe Wilfried Boney playing up front might unlock that a little bit in him. Obviously Boney has struggled since coming over, so not big on Bojan, not big on the Stoke attack. Who do you got?
I'll touch on 2 guys that I sort of like, but one is you're going to have to check the lineups before you make your team. Check the availability of Joe Allen this week. I know he's got an injury that he picked up over international. He's 5,500. His last 3 games in the Premier, 15, 19, and 19.
I think he scored for Wales as well, right?
Yeah, and he did score for Wales, and he missed the second game with them. So check the availability. His price is awesome. He's doing enough, checking all the boxes and all the columns, but the only problem is that he may be injured, so you don't want to put him into your lineup too early and do the set it, forget it, and then you lose points because he's probably not going to play. The other guy I like, and he's played well for Austria over the international break, and that's my boy Marko Sharko Arnautovic. I know Kevin alluded to Bojan taking the penalty kicks, but I think if Arnautovic is in the starting lineup, I think Arnautovic is the PK taker there. At 7,200, I like Arnautovic because he's a streaky player. When he gets on a roll, he's very similar to Callum Wilson in that way. Yeah. When Wilson scores, he kind of stays on that same momentum tip and plays to a high level for consecutive games. Let's hope that Arnautovic can roll this over from the international break and use that into the attack for Stoke. Is it a guarantee? No. But he's only 7,200, so you're not really gambling, tens of thousands that you would have to spend on, Alexis Sanchez. But I'm not saying you'd roster him over Alexis Sanchez, but it's a good chance. If Stoke and Sunderland are swapping goals, Arnautovic is probably going to be on the tally sheet somewhere. Yeah,
I probably agree with you there. All right, and if I had to ask you kind of game flow wise, where do you think this one goes?
I think this is probably a 1-1 draw.
Just to annoy everyone. No clean sheets. Nobody helping out enough to really do anything of note. All right, now on to... nope, not going to say that because the team I support is still a secret.
Ooh.
But they're playing in this one for sure. So that narrows it down for you guys quite a bit. Who do you have in this one?
Well, the one guy I like, but he's kind of moved into that damned if you do, damned if you don't category, and that's Youngman's Son. Yeah. Because of his price and the way he's playing for club and country.
Most owned this week, do you think?
I'm sorry?
Do you think he'll be the most owned this week?
It's going to be close between him and probably Alexis Sanchez based on Arsenal's matchup. I think people are going to flip a coin between Sanchez and Aguero and probably lean Sanchez a lot because of the matchup. And Everton's defense is probably swaying them to lean towards Sanchez. But Heung-min Son will probably be close to 40% owned based just total solely on his price tag at 7,600. Just look what he's doing. Look at his fantasy contributions the last 5 weeks. And you'll know why he is going to be that owned. My avoid for this week, we'll keep it on the same team, and we'll just look at the overpriced values of the midfielders for Tottenham. Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli. You just look at them and you ask, what have you done for me lately? That's all you have to know. Yes, they do give you some return once in a while, but look at their prices. Eriksen is a top 8 midfielder price-wise, and Ali's in the top 14. Yeah. So you're not getting much value there for return investment. Another guy I like from the Spurs team, Toby Alderweireld is only 4,200. I know he doesn't do much with the crosses and the facilitation of build-up of play, but at 4,200 and going against a West Brom team who doesn't have the most prominent scoring attack is probably a decent investment to look into, especially if you go on the cheap with defenders. And if you use that with my call before, a Zabaleta and Alderweireld pairing in the back is only 8,300 for your defenders.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good value to me. I completely agree on your Eriksen and Ali pick. If I was, forced to pick between Eriksen and Ali, I think it would probably be Eriksen. He's just been in better form the last few weeks. But he's also significantly more expensive, so that's kind of a gamble that you'd have to take. West Brom have actually been sneaky good in attack, although it is largely buoyed by that West Ham win. But they are actually top 10 because they're literally 10th in goals scored. But the guy I'm going with to kind of counter that little stat nugget I just dropped is Hugo Lloris. And I know you have that great stat about the most expensive guy going there, but I'm going with Tottenham and French international and captain Hugo here. Tottenham lead the league in clean sheets. Lloris is coming off a pair of phenomenal performances against Manchester City and Netherlands for country with 8 saves in those matches and no goals conceded, which is pretty nice as well. He's behind the league's best defense, so he's going to get a lot of those, a higher percentage of that clean sheet win double bonus. Not a lot of saves here, but as you and I have talked about before, saves not really... they'll save your day, but they won't really win your day, because if you concede once, then all of a sudden you're back down to 0. But I think Lloris is a very good option, just because he's been so good and this Tottenham defense is so good. Basically, if you want to score on Tottenham, you have to get past Wanyama and Dembele, Toby and Jan Vertonghen, and then Hugo Lloris. Not a lot of teams have the ability to do that. As we saw last week in the Premier League, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, Manchester City, league's best attack, held to 0 by this team. So even though West Brom have been a little bit better in attack, maybe not good enough here. For a player I dislike, unfortunately, it's our boy Nacer Chadli. You and I actually hopped on the Chadli train the week before he blew up. So massive pat on the back to us there. But anyway, Chadli, it's possible this ends up being a bit of a revenge game, I guess, but I don't really think he's that upset about the way he left. He goes to West Brom, he's getting minutes, he's scoring goals, he's back in the Belgium side. Basically, the entire point of him leaving, everything has kind of come good there. He does know the defenders better than, other people would, but the defenders also know him. He does not have a very high motor all the time. He's going to be up against Kyle Walker, who's one of the few right backs in the Premier League that has the size and pace to deal with him. I know you probably heard it way too much, but I like to analogize Nacer Chadli with a tight end in American football, where he's usually too big or too fast, depending on the opponent he's facing. Walker actually has both to deal with him, and if he cuts inside, then you have Toby, who's the guy that you mentioned. So even though I love Nacer Chadli with a whole lot of my heart, just don't think this is really the week for him. If you had to pick a winner in this one, I assume it's Tottenham.
Yeah, I'd say it's 2-0 Spurs.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout. Although, you never know when Tottenham are just going to screw you and give away a random goal. But
True.
hopefully you're right there, since the player I picked that I loved is a goalkeeper for them. All right, and wrapping it up, we have West Ham and Crystal Palace. Let's see, you let off the last one, so I guess I'll go now. The player that I like, and I've been saying it basically anywhere anyone will listen to me this week, is Andros Townsend. Although the 8,500 here is much more expensive than he would have cost in a draft league or in the official FPL game. 8,500 is still worth it for me. High price does not mean low value. Townsend is second in the league in total crosses, first in the league in successful crosses, but only has 1 assist. That is not sustainable. Obviously, those are going to start ticking up. So I'm very, very positive on him this week. You add to that Christian Benteke, 3 goals in his last 5 for Crystal Palace. You add to that West Ham with the league worst defense. All of a sudden, everything's coming up Townsend for me this week. The dislike for me this week is somebody that's been a sleeper of mine and yours for a long time. That's Manuel Lanzini. Crystal Palace are improving defensively. Steve Mandanda has helped out a lot at the back. And I don't think West Ham score multiples here. And even if they do, I'm not sure how involved Lanzini is. As we've said before, we've said it again. Say it with me, kids. Low price does not mean high value. Lanzini, often a sleeper pick for both of us, often a sleeper pick for a lot of people. At 6,000, by the way, his price has actually gone up, despite him doing basically nothing over the recent weeks, is somebody that I'm definitely avoiding this week. Who you got, Rob?
When I'm filling out my teams this week, I've already filled out a couple for the contest on Saturday. First name that I've put in both times is Christian Benteke. I just love what he's doing at 8,200. I'm not risking the Sergio Aguero play this week. I don't think. I may put him in 1 or 2 teams, but I'm not going to highly invest in the Sergio Aguero bandwagon. I like the Benteke Sanchez stack this week. I think that's probably the way I will go. He's played well for country. He's played well for club. As Kevin mentioned, he's got 5 goals in 3 games, I believe, is what it said.
Other way, 3 and 5.
3 goals in 5 games. I like dyslexia. It's good for me. He's like Kevin said, he's going against West Ham. It's the worst defenders in the Premier. So that's usually a good matchup for me on paper. So I'm going to lean Christian Benteke in this game as one of my favorite strikers. Guy I don't like, anybody who lines up on the defensive unit for either team. Both teams are going to ship a goal in this. And the interesting thing is, keep an eye out for Aaron Cresswell to pop up in this game late.
Interesting.
I think he's going to be back from injury. He said he's getting some fitness in. He's probably their best defender. He's probably one of the better defenders in any format, especially a cash game, because of what he does on the wing. He's basically like a glorified midfield wing player. So keep an eye on that. It'd be good to see him come back, maybe get some token 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game. Guy sneaky value good. James MacArthur for Crystal Palace.
Interesting. Yeah.
4,100. I like all sneaky plays. Ryan Mason, James MacArthur this week. His last 5 games, Kevin, James MacArthur.
Yeah.
2, 23, 18, 5, and 5 from a defensive midfielder of James MacArthur. That's actually great value at 4,100 for a Crystal Palace team that likes to, get the ball to the wings as fast as possible with Zaha and Townsend. He could be a sneaky good play this week, especially if they catch West Ham sleeping on defense, because that's basically what they've been doing all year and basically just been shipping goals.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. Any final thoughts on the week on the whole?
It's a better slate of games than we've had over the last couple. At least we have 3 top flight teams and the talent level to do that. So the rosters are going to be interesting this week because you have talent from Arsenal, you have talent from Man City, you have talent from Tottenham, and then you have a mixture of West Ham guys and Everton guys, and then the people like the roster as well. And then you have all the budget low-level plays from the Bournemouth, Hull, Stoke, Sunderland games. So it's going to be an interesting slate of games this week. I think roster diversity is going to be key this week to actually cashing, and finding a good stack is probably going to be the comfort level thing. I don't know where I'm leaning yet, but I kind of like an Arsenal, West Brom, Tottenham game stack, to be honest.
Yeah, as for stacks, I already mentioned the 2 teams that are bottom 5 in every category. If you're looking for stacks, there are 3 teams all in this slate that are top 5 in every category. That's Tottenham, Arsenal, and Manchester City. Obviously, City with the toughest matchup there. We did it last week and we nailed it, guessing what we thought the best team would be around. We said it would be around 130s, 140s. It ended up there. If you had to guess what the winning team has point total-wise, where do you think this week will end up?
I think 1 or 2 of these games could probably have 3 or more goals in it, so that's going to up the totals a little bit. And there's probably going to be 2 or 3 clean sheets in there, so defensively that's going to add to it. Yeah. I'll probably say to be closer to 170 this week.
Yeah, I was going to go high 160s. So, yeah, we're both in the same area there. And that will do it for us. So, Rob, why don't you tell the folks where they can get at you?
You can find me on Twitter at Smokey_Loogie, or you can find all my writings on the FPL universe on Razzball.com.
Yeah, and I am at Kevroff on Twitter. I write for the EaglesBeak.com. We also have a show over on the EPL Roundtable called the FPL Roundtable, so be sure to check that out. Also, all those shows go up on allinsportstalk.com. They also have an app, so be sure to check them out. I think they're at allinsportstalk on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining me, Rob, as always, and we hope you guys stay tuned for next week.
We're looking forward to hearing from you. Get in touch with us. VIP Bet, your place to win.